The Scottish Highlands are home to one of humanity's most captivating mysteries, the Loch Ness Monster. All kinds of wild theories have been thrown around, with over 1,000 reported sightings of a strange giant creature swimming around in the loch's murky waters. While expeditions have tried to find the elusive beast, we've come up empty-handed. Until now. A recent DNA study may have just solved the case. So what did they find? And how did this become such a big deal in the first place? This is Nessie, or at least this is what we think she looks like. Is she even a she? The truth is, we're not sure, because there's still so much we don't know about the Loch Ness Monster. That's why this beast is, without a shadow of a doubt, Scotland's oldest and most enduring myth. We've known about it for over 1,500 years, but it's only during the last century and a half that we've really become obsessed. So where does it all begin? Who first spotted Nessie? Well, that all depends on who you choose to believe. Allegedly, the first sighting of the monster can be traced back to 565 AD, when an Irish missionary named Saint Columba claimed to have encountered a beast unlike anything else. According to Columba's biography, he saw the monster take a bite at a swimmer and was about to attack another man when Saint Columba, the hero, intervened, yelling at Nessie to go back. Now let's fast forward to comparatively modern times to 1933. A man named George Spicer and his wife were supposedly driving down the road next to the loch, which is up here, by the way, about 3 hours drive northwest of Edinburgh. They claimed to have seen, quote, the most extraordinary form of animal simply walking across the road in front of their car. While the couple had no idea what the creature was, they compared its looks to something of a dragon or a prehistoric monster. In that same year, the Inverness Courier newspaper made the first official report of a modern Nessie sighting. One of the company's correspondents, Alec Campbell, described something that looked almost like a whale chopping and churning in the murky waters. When the story ran public, the newspaper's editor labeled the creature as a so-called monster, and since then, well, that moniker has just stuck. A year later, in 1934, we were blessed with the first ever photograph of the elusive beast. Dubbed the surgeon's photograph, the snap, taken by Robert Wilson, was published in the Daily Mail. For whatever reason, Wilson didn't want his real name involved. Maybe in hindsight because it turned out to be a hoax, who knows for sure. That photo from afar shows a little black figure sticking out of the water. When cropped and zoomed in, however, it shows what appeared to be a small head and back. The cropped version was actually rather controversial. You see, when zoomed in, we lose our perspective of distance, and it makes the ripples in the water seem far larger. That said, this photo remained significant evidence for a considerable time. Decades later, the photo was all but debunked. A 1975 article in The Telegraph claimed that it was staged, hypothesizing that the creature was actually a toy submarine and all part of a hoax. By this point, people didn't know what to think. There'd been tens of reported sightings through the mid to late 20th century, a number that would only grow over time. Some found the notion of a giant hidden creature laughable, while others were fully transfixed by the mystery and believed every inch of the story. One of those people was George Edwards, a man who searched for the monster for over 26 years, spending close to 60 hours per week aboard his boat, appropriately named the Nessie Hunter 4. If you ask George, he'll tell you that he took this photo on the 3rd of August of 2012, which, as the clearest photo to that point, ramped up interest in the conspiracy yet again. According to George, Nessie, quote, probably looks kind of like a manatee, but not a mammal. Here's the deal though, Edwards actually admitted a year later that his photograph was a fake. However, he insisted that the one he took back in 1986 was genuine. This photo of the 3 humps emerging from the water. But we don't know these guys, so why should we trust their photos to be real? Well, what if we told you that Apple, you know, the giant tech company, has captured its own image of the beast? In April 2014, a satellite image on Apple Maps showed a shadow of something just under 100 feet, that's 30 meters long. What appeared to be a massive underwater creature. The common non-believer reasoning was that it was the ripple effect as a result of a boat. Someone says boat wake, someone else says monster. You decide. Eventually, scientists became fed up with the whole he said, she said notion and decided to investigate Nessie for themselves. Among the professional expeditions was a 1 million pound exploration of the loch called Operation Deep Scan, which lasted an entire week in 1987. With 24 sonar-equipped boats, they scanned as much as they could of the loch. Unfortunately, that was only 60% of its surface area, as they couldn't get accurate readings from parts of the lake that were close to the shore. The conclusion? A waste of money, with not much new evidence of anything. Individuals took it upon themselves to scour the lake as well, including Steve Feltham, who is officially recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest continuous visual hunting for the Loch Ness Monster, at over 27 years. What does he think about it all? Well, simply that, quote, "This is a world-class mystery." And of course, what comes with mystery but all kinds of wild theories? Part of the reason that more than 400,000 people visit Loch Ness every year is in the hope of seeing a plesiosaur. When the 1933 photograph came out, people saw the shape and quickly linked it to the extinct plesiosaur dinosaur. At least, we thought it was extinct. Hypothetically, had it not gone extinct, there are still reasons that expel the theory. The average temperature of Loch Ness is only about 5.5 degrees Celsius, or around 42 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no way that a cold-blooded reptile would thrive there. They need warm tropical waters. Plus, if it really were a creature similar to a plesiosaur, they'd have to surface several times a day to breathe. And we'd have more photographic evidence if that were the case. Or if it wasn't a dinosaur, it could have been a monster-like giant amphibian such as the long-necked newt. Well, that's what R.T. Gould, the lieutenant commander in the British Royal Navy, thought at least. Okay, so if it wasn't a monster, what else could it have been? As for the most realistic animals, there were usually 3 theories put forward: the elephant, the Greenland shark, and the Wells catfish. Let's start with elephants. In a 1979 article, California biologist Dennis Power declared that the surgeon's photograph, the one we saw earlier, showed the top of the elephant's head and its trunk up in the air. But what was an elephant doing in Loch Ness? Well, back then, circuses were common, so it very well could have been a circus elephant going for a swim. As for the Greenland shark, well, those sly creatures can reach up to 20 feet in length, and despite living in the Atlantic Ocean, are known to be able to survive in fresh water as well. The Wells catfish, on the other hand, was the idea of none other than our Guinness World Record holder Steve Feltham, who thought that the species might have been released into the water during the late 1800s. Those were the animals in question, but many non-animal events attempt to explain the Nessie phenomenon as well. Some folks thought it was nothing more than a tree trunk. Others, including Italian geologist Luigi Picardi, correlated the surface waves and audible roars with earthquakes and seismic gases released from the Great Glen fault line below the lake. Then there's the shape of the lake itself. Because of its long, straight nature, Loch Ness is subject to unusual ripples on its surface. Even the idea of optical illusions has floated around. Just wait, bear with us here. When it's windy, the water becomes choppy, which makes calm patches appear darker and creating what look like giant shadows. In reality, it's just still water reflecting the darker mountains. So, we've heard all kinds of theories put forward, some crazy, some legitimate, but finally, thanks to a New Zealand-based research team, we may actually have the real answer. A squad from the University of Otago headed off to Scotland's mystifying lake to catalog all of its life forms. Plants, insects, fish, mammals, you name it. This wasn't a hunt for the monster, but their findings definitely have shed new light on the puzzle. They found, hold on to your hats folks, close to 500 million different DNA sequences, including humans, dogs, sheep, cattle, deer, badgers, and rabbits. But in almost every sample, they found DNA of one particular species, eel. Professor Neil Gamel, one of the university's researchers, said it perfectly. Quote, "The sheer quantity of the material says that we cannot discount the possibility that there may be giant eels in Loch Ness. The Loch Ness Monster might be a giant eel. Or it might somehow look like a monster without actually being one. Again, a potential optical illusion. From afar, it's difficult to judge the size of an object in water through a telescope or binoculars with no external reference. So an eel peeking out of the water, which, let's be honest, has some rather monster-like aesthetics, could indeed look far larger than it really is. Plus, if a bunch of eels were to cluster together underwater, it could create shadows far larger than what we're used to. Does this mean that the case is closed? Was it just eels being seen the wrong way and hoaxes propelling this story all along? Well, no, not exactly. We still have a number of unanswered questions. Like, what about the photo of the flipper taken in 1972 by the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau? Eels usually only have small pectoral fins behind their gills, but that photo tells a whole other story. Even though we have all of this new evidence, the Scottish Natural Heritage still has a plan in place in case Nessie is ever found. Most think it won't be caught, because they see it as nothing more than a tourist ploy. And even if it were ever found, or on the flip side, proven inarguably false, do you think they'd even tell us? Probably not, because they'd be forfeiting the millions of dollars that the mysterious beast brings in year after year. And that's all for the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster. Do you think there's something bigger lurking down there? Let us know. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to join our notification squad. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.